What's going on? It's the RapNerd, and it is Friday the 13th. So I figured on a day like this, what better way to celebrate than to talk about some movies from the famous franchise starring Jason Voorhees. I wanted to take some time out today to talk about Friday the 13th, the remake from 2009. And the reason I want to talk about it is I feel like it gets a lot of hate that's not deserved. Now, this isn't to say that the movie is perfect. It's not a masterpiece in any way. There are some flaws if you want to poke holes in it. It's all there. But frankly, I personally feel like this is the best film of the franchise. It's actually a complete film from start to finish. And I'm going to be honest here. I love the franchise, right? Love all the movies. You see I got the Jason Takes Manhattan shirt on. I have the whole set. I plan on buying the box set next. But these movies are not great films by any means. I think the fans and everyone who loves these films, they love them for the campiness, the over-the-top violence, the score, and, you know, the but as far as being a complete film, the majority are not that, you know. Terrible acting, cringeworthy lines, dialogue just being, they don't even try. It's a whole lot. There's not even a real story in the majority of the films. But that aside, we don't care about that because we're here for the fun. But what I like about the 2009 version is it operates like a complete film. I think every aspect in making a film be at least decent is in the 2009 version. There's actually a real story. There are actual performances. The cinematography is pretty damn good. The score hits. It's actually freaking scary as well. I think out of all of these films, when you talk about the scare factor, 2009 blows it out the water. All in all, I think this doesn't deserve the hate that it gets. And I just want to kind of put my perspective out there as to why I feel this way. First thing I like about the movie is it does a great job of taking the first three films and just fusing them all together. And for those who don't know, there is an extended version out there called the Killer Cut. And if I remember correctly, it adds about 8 minutes and 30 seconds to the film. And it adds a little bit of texture into the lore of what's going on. Like at the beginning of the film, theatrically, they recreate the famous ending of the 1980 version, the original Friday the 13th, with the camp scout killing Jason's mom. But in the extended version, they add to that in little ways that you don't really realize until you like sit down and watch it. So they handle part one, which is what everybody wants to see. And that's the reason why I don't really watch part one like that, because I'm here for Jason. And honestly, Miss Voorhees doing all that stuff, but I get it, it's cool. So they get that out the way to introduce it in the Killer Cut. They actually show Jason as a kid, like, you know, kind of creep through the bushes, walks up to his mom's decapitated head, and he grabs the machete and walks away with it. So that right there already puts us right into the shit. And it's dope because the introduction is the first movie, and then it kind of resets Crystal Lake present time, and this is like movie number 2 in a nutshell. Like these first 10 minutes explores Jason, what he's been doing, and he comes back and he even has the classic bag over his head like Friday the 13th part 2. Once he runs through all these campers, it kind of resets again because that's when the title card shows up, like Friday the 13th, and then boom, we're on to movie 3. So I like that it fits all 3 films in there. Is it a bit stuffed? Yeah, but I think for anyone who's never seen all of the movies in the franchise, or even the first 3, the casual horror fan just knows Jason. I don't think they can separate parts 1 and 2 and 3. Because again, all of these movies just kind of run. But for those who don't know about it, I think this was a good way to introduce the novice fan to the overall premise of Jason, right? And one thing about it is, when it goes to present day, it makes me wonder if this film makes all of them canon. Of course, that's my headcanon at least, because it says 1980 when they do the first flashback, and then it says present day. So I'm like, was everything in there actually kept intact? And if so, I think that's pretty tight because it explains why Jason is the way he is. So let's talk about Jason in this film. Bar none, Jason became terrifying. You know, before this movie, Jason was just the guy that he kills people in the most ridiculous ways. You know, putting somebody in a TP, hitting them against a wall, slicing heads off of somebody riding a moped, pushing a wheelchair guy down the stairs. Like, it's a whole bunch of just wild stuff, right? But this one, Jason is not playing. For one, the dude is huge. I mean, we talking about like linebackers that is 6'5", 350, just muscle. And the way he moves just takes everything to a different level. From the moment we see him pop up out of that trap door in the floor, he comes out of there with such speed and velocity. I feel like I'm describing Bane. Like Alfred did in Dark Knight Rises. Like, you see his speed, his ferocious, his velocity. That's how he is. I mean, he pops out. No plan, no games at all. Just him running, it's just different. It's not like Leatherface, because I feel like Leatherface is just brute, you know, force and speed, but it almost feels like in this movie, Jason is trained. There's different things that he does. I mean, from shooting arrows to his quick speed and attentiveness. And there's even a scene when he's sharpening his machete and he does this thing where he like holds it and he looks at the blade like, this motherfucker is trained to kill. And that is nuts. Jason being the way he is in this film, he just, the violence is just on a different level because, again, he is trained, it seems like. Like, I feel like it's implied that he spent all of these years at Crystal Lake training just to be a killer. And it shows. I mean, so many kills in here. When he's standing on the roof and jumps off that joint and stabs the cop in the head. Gruesome, vicious. I gotta say, it's the biggest part of this film. Jason is the scariest he's ever been. He can go toe-to-toe with Michael, go toe-to-toe with Leatherface, Ghostface, anybody in this film. He's not to be messed around with, honestly. Jason aside, what I think the movie does so well is it balances the campiness that we come to know in the Jason franchise, you know, with the kids having sex. I mean, there's mad sex scenes, mad showing up the breasts, if you know what I mean. The comedy, the humor in there between the whole group of, I guess they're friends, I can't tell because Trent is such a dick. I don't know what this friendship is like, but there is the banter that we see here that we've seen in the past films, and they make sure to keep that cheesiness and campiness there. But like I said, the balance of it is it takes itself very seriously, so I feel like when the moments hit of true fear and true violence, they're taken so seriously that it's a teeter-totter. It's like, oh, this is not a game, okay. He's not playing. Like, we in a different ball game, and I think the levity of that is balanced so well, especially for him to bring it in the modern day. And I think it's balanced better than all of the films. There's no movie in this franchise that I actually felt scared, you know. It's more just a fun ride laughing. But Friday the 13th, the remake, there's quite a bit of times when I'm just kind of like, this would be terrifying if he was here. It's that balance that I really, really enjoy that they get right. I also think they do a better job of characterization. Again, in all of the past movies, majority of the characters are all the same. And it could be my biased nature because I watched the remake a lot more, so I understand whose characters is which, but I still watch all of them, and these characters are all pretty different. You know, you have Trent, who's the douchebag. I don't know why I always remember his name for some reason. I think I've seen this movie in the midst of number of times. You got the two stoner friends who are what they are. I think that's a callback to part 3, if I'm not mistaken. You have the promiscuous girlfriend who is there to be the eye candy. You have the all-American girlfriend and boyfriend who are just literally surface level, like, idiots for the most part. And you have the wholesome girl who you would think would be the final girl in the film, which I love that they throw such a curveball at the end when she does get killed, because I didn't see that coming. I remember watching it for the first time in theaters. The whole room was shocked, like, oh, when she died, because they built her up to be this character of the final girl. Then you have the lead protagonist, which is Jared Padalecki's character, who also has a wholesome nature about him, trying to find his sister. So I think the characterization really works better, and you can identify who's who way more than you can in the other movie. Yeah, in the story, I like it. They add a layer to make sense of why these things are happening, more so than any other story. Jared's character being the addition to add some type of depth to the story. You gotta have some kids come out to the lake house to be fresh and meat, but there's actually more to it than just these kids show up and they're at the wrong place at the wrong time. You have Jared there looking for his sister because Jason kidnapped her because his sister reminds him of his mom, and that's, again, making part 2 come into play. I think that extra layer of Jared trying to find his sister adds something else to the film to make you care. Because I don't feel like you care about anybody in all of the other films, but here you're like, damn, this is a guy with an estranged relationship with his sister who he hasn't spoken to, and he's trying to find her. Even if you don't latch on to that and feel like it hit you emotionally, which it didn't for me, but it just made me care about him and his sister, because during the movie they're flashing back and forth of his sister being down in this creepy ass lair, Jared being, you know, on top looking for her. So it just adds something different to the story, and I really enjoyed that. So not to go too much further, like I said, this movie is better, I feel like, than as a full film than the rest of them, but it's not overly deep to the point where I gotta explain this for an hour. But all of those boxes are definitely checked as to why I think it's a better film and the best film in the franchise, technically. Now, I'm not saying you don't like any other ones more, and you can, and hell, you could not even agree with me, but I'm just presenting my perspective from a filmmaker standpoint, from writing, cinematography, camera movement, the kills, the story, the dialogue. Like, to me, it's way more complete than all those other movies in the franchise. And personally, I think when they do reboot it, because you cannot leave Jason out, he's gonna come back soon. He's been on the bench for about 10 years now. Has it been 10 years? Yeah, about 10 plus years he's been on the bench, and you got Ghostface flourishing. You know, Michael just had his run. We gotta have Jason come back. And this, to me, is the starting point of where they should go with it. Look at the remake and say, okay, what worked about it is it was a solid film at its core, and then go from there. And we bringing Jason right back into the helm. So let me know in the comments, what's your favorite Friday the 13th? Like I said, the remake is my personal favorite. As usual, be respectful. No disrespect in the comments. Everybody has an opinion. It's just mine, so let me live. Don't come at me with any gatekeeper commentary, because I love horror. It's my favorite genre. And again, I love all of the films, man. So this is no hate or slight to any of them. So if you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace. RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy.